This is Delta 316. We have a math problem on the loose. We have a math problem.
So by the end of this video, even someone who doesn't know how to solve x will be able to solve x. Let's say, for example, you have b and you have a. Now a can be any number. B can also be any number. For example, these numbers can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so forth. Or they can be a fraction. 1 over 2, 1 over 3, 1 over 6, 2 over 5, 3 over 4. Okay? Now x is a variable, which means x can be represented sometimes by an equation, sometimes it represents an equation, sometimes it's just a variable which must be solved. In terms of solve for x, or solve for t, or solve for y, now it can also be t, y, z, anything, as long as it's an unknown. So x represents an unknown variable. So now that you know that, say for example, you have x equals negative b, and your b is 5. Now this simply means that if you were to solve for x, you will find that in terms of b, you will substitute 5, and you will have negative 5. This will be your x. Say now you have negative b plus ax equal 2, right? B in this case is equal to 1, and a is equal to 1 over 2. Because I already stated that a and b can be any number that the person asking you the question would desire. So if I'm asking you a question and I ask you to solve for x and I give you 1 over 2, you can't say, well, that's not what I was taught. You have to think that, okay, b is any natural number. It can be 0.5, it can be 0.33. As long as it's a number, it's possible to solve. You just follow the steps. It doesn't have to give you a number that you know, it just has to give you a number that's real. So in this case, you have negative 1. So you substitute, whether it's b, you substitute 1. And you have also half. And you're given that this is equal to 2. Solving this, you would first choose how you approach it. So you'll first maybe multiply out using BODMAS. You'll first have to multiply the fractions and the brackets and everything, and then you can continue with the rest of your question. So in this example, we can see that negative 1, there's an imaginary 1 here that you'll not always have. Most of the time it's not written, but you should imagine there's a 1 in front of a negative. Whenever you see a negative, just imagine there's a 1. So that negative 1 multiplied by 1 will give you negative 1. So you know 1 times 1 is 1. So how I know this is that negative multiplied by negative is positive. Negative multiplied by positive is negative. Negative divided by negative is negative. Oh, it's positive, sorry. And negative divided by positive is negative. So whenever they're not the same and you're either dividing or multiplying, you will get the opposite. So here they're not the same and you're multiplying, so you got the negative, you'll always get negative. And here they're not the same and you're dividing, you get negative. But when they're the same, you get a positive. So here you're multiplying and they're the same, get a positive, get a positive. If it was positive, multiply or divide by another positive, you will get positive. Because if you're multiplying and dividing and the signs are the same, you will always get positive. So to continue our example, you have 1 over 2 and you have x. So there's an imaginary 1, but it's a real number, not like imaginary as in the number system, but a number that you can't see but you know it's there. So divided by 1. So basically what you'll do is multiply the top, then multiply the bottom. This is not an improper fraction, so because this is not a number, this is a variable, so you're multiplying this fraction with the variable of x. So here you have 1 times x, which is x, and 2 times the 1, or you can just write it as 2. You don't have to imagine that you're multiplying. Sometimes you can just multiply the top and leave it. Sometimes you can say, okay, there's a 1 and multiply. In case maybe if there was a 2, you would say 2. If it was 1 over 2 multiplied by x over 3, then you would say 1 times 1, x, and then 2 times 3 would be 6. But in this case, it's a 1, so 2 times 1 is 2, 1 times x is x, and you still have your 2. Remember, you're trying to solve x. So what will happen now is that the 1, as I've said, as I'm now stating, so whenever you have a number like this crossing to the other side of your equal sign, its sign will change. Changes signs. See? So whenever you see this number and you want to take it to the other side, don't forget to change its sign. If it's x, because there's a negative, there's a 1 here, it will be negative x. If it's 2, it will be negative 2 if it's going to the left, but this one is going to the right, so it will be positive. If it was positive, it would be negative. So because now it's going to be positive, you're going to have 2. This will be positive, so it will become plus 1. So don't forget, just gonna put a star there to show that it crossed. So you have x over 2 equals 3. Now, what you do here is you multiply by 2 on both sides. Multiply by 2, multiply by 2. So this 2 will cancel this one, and here you will have x equal 3 times 2. Then your x is equal to 6. That's how you solve your x. Now let's look at another example. Here we have another example that I'm gonna make up. So we already established that A or B or C can be any number, right? So knowing that, the forms in which you'll be asked to solve for x, mostly they are in this form of ax maybe equals b ax squared plus bx equals c. Whatever form that you're given, a over b plus c over x equals maybe d or 1. Doesn't matter which form you're given, it can be any form, but you just follow the same steps. So now we are going to be focused on these forms, and then we'll look at other forms later in the video. So now we are going to substitute any number for x. We're not going to use the a or b analogy. So let's say you have minus 3x plus 3. equals 2x plus 1. So here you're going to apply the rule. Remember, you can choose to solve your x on the right hand side or on the left hand side. It doesn't really affect what happens, but the answer will remain the same. You can say 2 is equal to x, or you can say x is equal to 2. It means the same thing. So, but normally I like to take the x's, whatever I'm trying to solve, to the side where it will give me a positive. For example, if you take 3x to the other side, it will be positive. But when you're taking 3x, you're saying that all the other things that you don't want as x should go to the other side. So this will be negative and this will be positive. So starting with the 1 will go this side. There's already a 3 here, and there's already a 2 here. So this 1 crosses to the other side and becomes negative 1. I'm going to put a little star here so you know it crossed from the other side. Then you already have 2x. This x here is going to cross and the sign will change. Because it was negative, it will become positive 3x. I'm going to put a little star so you know it's from the other side. Now you just sum them up together before you start dividing with the coefficient. At the end, you want to be left with only x. 1x, not 5x, is not, so that you can just divide with the number in front of the x. So here is 2, is 3 minus 1. 3 minus 1 is 2. 2x plus 3x is 5x. So if you have 2 bananas and you have 3 bananas, you have 5 bananas. But if you have 2 bananas and 3 apples, you don't have 5 apples and you don't have 5 bananas. You still have 2 bananas and 3 apples. So in this case, they're all apples. So you will have 5x. You divide both sides by 5. Divide both sides by 5. And this 5 will cancel this one. You will be left with 2 over 5 equal x. This is the same as saying x is equal to 2 over 5. There is no difference. Then you have solved it. Now, I want you to pause the video and try this one. In this one, you have 3x plus 2 equals x. You can pause the video and try it. But how you'd approach this, it's very simple. You would simply just take your x and have it come over to the other side. So its sign will change. Always remember, sign changes. So 3x and the x crosses over to the other side becomes a negative. And now the 2 will cross over to the other side, but we'll deal with that one later. So if initially you'll have this. So because there is nothing left here, you're left with 0. So you do the same with the 2. You want the 2 to be on the opposite side. 3x minus x is equal to negative 2. Okay. So now you can simply subtract. You have a 1 here, which you cannot see. 3x minus 1x is 2x. This is equal to negative 2. What you do now is you divide both sides by 2. This 2 will cancel this one, and your x will be equal to negative 2 over negative 2 is negative 1. This also cancels this, but you'll be left with a negative 1. And that's how you would approach this example. Now, let's look at a more sophisticated or more challenging setup, a setup for solving x. So say now you have x squared, and then you have minus 2x plus 1 equal 0. Remember, you were taught to factorize. This is grade 10, maybe grade 9, don't remember, but I know there's something you call factorizing. I will post a video on this topic in the future, but we're not going to touch on the topic right now. For now, we're just going to apply it. So you will need to factorize. So when you factorize, basically you want to extract this into its factors. In other words, you want to have your highest power as x or something lower than it is here. So looking at this one, you know that for before it became x squared, you must have multiplied x with x. So if you were to multiply x with x, you would get x squared. So this tells you that it was x with x. That's the first part. And secondly, for it to be 1, it needed to be -1 by -1, +1 by +1. Multiplying them, you'll get 1. So you're gonna have to choose which one it was. So how you choose is that you look at your middle term. Looking at your middle term, you can see that it has a negative. So it having a negative, it tells you that something was added up, and whatever that was added, it gave a result of a negative. So if you have -2 plus 1, the result is a negative. Okay, result is a negative. If you have -1, -1, the result is -2. So, but in this case, your highest number is 1. So you cannot have a number bigger than 1 because it's 1. So you know it was 1 and 1. And then now you choose the sign. Choosing the sign, you will look at this value here, and you know adding -1 and -1 would give you -2. So you'd have that in such a way that when you multiply x with x, you will have x squared. You multiply x with 1, you will have -x. You multiply x again with 1, you'll have -x, and -1 with -1, you'll have +1. Adding these two together, you will have -2x plus 1. So this is valid. Solving this equation, the first thing you'd need to do is factorize x minus 1. X minus 1 equals 0. Then you will continue, because it's -1 and -1, you just take, once you have it in this form, you can just take the bracket and equate it to 0. X minus 1 equals 0. X is equals to 1. So for this example, you don't have to use the other bracket because it's the same values, it's the same numbers, the same whatever. So that's how you would solve that one. It's a simple example, but I'll come up with more solutions or more examples and tutorials in the future videos. So say now you have x minus 4 equal 12. This is another example that you can try. You can pause the video and try. So the thing you will do first, you will use BODMAS. And BODMAS tells you, we've been using it all of our videos, but now I'm just explaining it better so that you may understand. So you use BODMAS. You first multiply before you do anything else. Multiply x with x. Because it's only one value, it's like that. You multiply x times x, you get x squared. You multiply x with -4, you get -4x. Then you're done. Equate that to 12. So remember, this now goes to the other side. And what happens? Changes signs. So 12, go to the other side, will change its sign, and now you have something like this. This is 4. It's not, this is just 4. X. Okay, let's write it properly. You have x squared minus 4x equal minus 12. When it crosses over to the other side, it becomes negative 12. So what you can do now, you apply the same method we've been applying for factorizing. Put it to 0. You look, for it to become x squared, you must have multiplied x with x. If it was 2x, you must have multiplied 2 with 1. Now, since you've multiplied x with x gave you x squared, you have to think of a number in which when you multiply them together, they will give you 12, negative 12 to be more precise. And when you add them, sum them up, they will give you negative 4. So what can give you 12 is 12 times 1. It's 6 times 2. It's 4 times 3. But when you sum up 12 with 1 gives you 13, or 12 minus 1 gives you 11. When you sum up 6 and 2 gives you 8. If you subtract, it gives you 4. Now, this is the number I would choose. If you use this one, if you sum up these, it will give you 7, and if you subtract, it give you 1. So we're going to go with this one that gives you 4. So it means you have 6 and you have 12. Now, because the coefficients of x are the same, it doesn't matter the order you choose. But if it was maybe 2, you would have to choose an order. So you have to choose an order in which when you multiply that number in front of the x with that number, they will give you that another number, which eventually you will sum them up and get 12. But for this one, the order doesn't matter. You just put 6 and 2, doesn't matter. Then for you to get negative 4, the bigger number has to be negative and the smaller one has to be positive. So if you sum negative 6 with 2, it will give you 4. If you multiply 2 with negative 6, it will give you 12. If you multiply out this whole thing, it will give you that. So what's left now is just to say x plus 2 is equals to 0, or x minus 6 equal to 0. And you just solve. Goes to the other side, becomes negative 2. Goes to the other side, becomes 6. And that's how you solve for x. If you learn these steps and you memorize some of these algebra skills, you can be able to solve any question that you encounter as long as it's solved for x. I'll be posting more videos soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and comment below if you would like to see more videos like this.